Sometimes right here on the Robert Scott Bell Show, got to ask, what country do I live in? Can you be arrested and charged with a crime that you didn't commit and then held without bail? No, that would never happen here under Obama's America, would it? Well, it turns out it did, and it happened to someone who really loves liberty. If he was a Marine, a soldier, he was overseas, came back, and decided he was going to support liberty, stand up for liberty in a peaceful, nonviolent way. His name, Adam Kokesh. And he's in prison now. We got to cover up not cover it. We're going to cover this story, not cover it up like they're doing. With Mike Adams, the health ranger, he's back for this special segment.
Hi, Robert. Hey, thanks for having me back on. Adam Kokesh is he's a polarizing activist. I admire a lot of the things he does, critical of a few things in the past. But when it comes down to what's happening here, we all need to jump to his defense because he is he has been arrested, and it's all on video, the arrest. This was at a Philadelphia ending prohibition rally where a lot of people were lighting up joints, but not Adam. He wasn't smoking
pro cannabis here, and he wasn't smoking at that point. And so, what was the reason they arrested him? You look at the video and you see that clearly this man doesn't appear to be a danger to anybody. Certainly in this event, why would they arrest him?
No, it's clear that the reason they arrested him is because he is a political prisoner of the Obama administration. They targeted him because of his speech, especially about him announcing an armed march on Washington on July 4th. So we actually predicted this before. They wanted to arrest him and throw him in prison until at least July 5th to avoid the march happening. But the way that they did it, since he wasn't committing any crime, they just jump in with, I think it was like eight cops went in and dragged him away from this event, and then they just later charged him with felony assault of a federal officer. And they can make that up on anyone. And that's the point of this, is that anyone, the Obama administration, which is now a completely rogue criminal government engaged in widespread intimidation and law breaking and corruption all across the board, IRS, Department of Justice, you name it, that they can just target anybody they want, come in, have you arrested, charge you with assaulting a federal officer, which can mean something like if they punch you in the face, your face assaulted their fist.
Yeah, I mean, that's the new definition of assault, of course, but anything goes when the federal government's writing the rules. Now, Kokesh being arrested in this way, I mean, I suspect, of course, because of his declaration, we can call it, that he was going to, on the Declaration of Independence Day, to march into Washington, D.C. with a fully armed brigade, but with peaceful intent, no violent intent, just the fact that he would cross over with arms that are loaded. Do you think, and that's not a big thing to speculate, but do they not want this to happen or something?
Well, remember when there was a big national movement called Opt-out Day for the TSA?
Yes.
Well, remember what the TSA did? They turned off all their machines that day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they announced, oh, nobody opted out because they turned off all the machines.
There's nothing to opt out of.
See, the government knows it's weak. It knows the people are strong. And it knows that determined, motivated people can literally overthrow this government. It's in a very weak and very precarious position. So what they're trying to do is make sure that this conflict, that this march on July 4th does not happen. And the easiest way to do that, they think, is to arrest Adam Kokesh, throw him in prison, charge him with a bunch of made-up false charges. But I think they're wrong. What's really going to happen is they are going to anger even more the Patriot movement, because now it's obvious what they're doing. It's obvious that Adam Kokesh has become a political prisoner. This is like black people being thrown in jail under apartheid.
Well, we talked about blowback or backfiring on Angelina Jolie and the whole intent to get every woman to just relinquish her body parts to a gene test. This seems to be setting themselves up for a blowback or backfire as well. And, you know, when I read this report over at InfoWars, the article here with an update, they say that they are not allowing him bail. I'm thinking, no bail? Why? Why? And they say it's because of a possibility of a history of excessive drug use. Since when has, anybody that's used any drug in the past, you talk possibility of a history, been a reason to not have bail? He's not even charged with smoking a joint at this thing.
No, that's what's also astonishing about this. Right. He's denied bail. They're going to keep him in prison there until at least Thursday when his first hearing is scheduled. But all they had to do to get that in was to say that there's a possibility that he might have a history of excessive drug use. Well, that's true for anybody. Anybody, there's a possibility of something.
Yeah, I mean, well, and of course, most Americans have been on drugs that are approved by government that could kill them rather than utilizing a plant that God created that somehow became banished when there were other things that it was competing with.
Right, right. So it's clear that this is all trumped up. These charges are false. Adam Kokesh is a political prisoner, and the system is so desperate. The system has lost all authority. It has lost all trust. Nobody trusts the system anymore. Nobody trusts the IRS. Nobody trusts the Department of Justice. Nobody even trusts Obama, even the people still defending him. They're just trying to cover their own butts on the way out as they see this system collapsing all around them, because a lot of them are going to jail. This administration is imploding, and a lot of criminals in it are going to jail.
You really think that this could be the one that puts it over the edge? Because we've seen criminal behavior in every administration to varying degrees, and very rarely do you see anybody held accountable for it. Just like with corporations that kill people, big pharma, vaccines, nobody seems to go to prison. Nobody in the FDA, the federal bureaucracy, is held accountable, unlike in China, where the head of their FDA at one point, I think, was executed because somebody died on his watch. So you think suddenly now this will happen?
I do think so, and let me explain why. Because no other administration was so arrogant that they would start doing their secret police tactics on the press. But this administration has gone after the Associated Press, and now we learn today that the Department of Justice also went to extraordinary lengths to surveil and track the activities of 3 different Fox News reporters. So now you have, if being the Obama administration, you have alienated both the Associated Press and Fox News, and all the other journalists out there realize, hey, we're not safe either. So now you're going to have the mainstream media turning against Obama in a tidal wave that's just going to destroy him, because you see, the press is the only thing that's been propping him up so far.
Well, it's typically not a good idea to bite the hand that feeds you, and usually they teach them that before they get into office. What is going on? These are acts of desperation. I mean, they become, you know, as much as we'll say there's corruption and there's bad people, we don't often say they're actually stupid. There's a lot of, let's say, planning that goes into many of these things. But now they're actually behaving as if they've forgotten all the basic rules of how to keep things quiet and under wraps.
It's arrogance. They have gotten away with so much for so long that they think they can get away with anything. They've never been held accountable. I mean, think about it. Eric Holder ran Fast and Furious, never got held accountable. There was election fraud in both elections, but especially in the 2012 election. Nobody was held accountable. Even when the IRS is caught now admitting that they targeted these patriot groups for selective scrutiny with an implication that you could go to jail if you don't answer all our questions. Even with that coming out, the only thing that these people, that the Obama administration thinks should happen is that they should be fired.
or recused from being recused on account of being recused.
Right. These people should be arrested and do jail time. So think about what we've got. We've got Adam Kokesh in jail for doing nothing, and then we've got the actual criminals inside the IRS and the Department of Justice who are committing felony crimes on a daily basis, not going to jail. So what's wrong with this picture?
Well, it's the same as it ever was, but yet there's something different about it. That is what I'm getting a sense of as you're saying this as well, that there's a level of arrogance. There's also, to some degree, maybe a scorched earth policy. When people see that the end is near, they start grabbing everything they can to take with them on the way out. And so they get a little sloppy. They get a little stupid. And in this case, if you've upset the media that has been your apologist lapdog, suddenly that lapdog's going to turn around and bite you, and that's what you see happening here.
Right. And as you mentioned, this has reached a mode of desperation, which means anything is possible at this point. And that's why I've put out a warning already about watch out for these false flags. I think the Obama administration could do something really radical, like nuke a major city. Yeah, that their operatives could pull that off to save Obama from all these scandals and reestablish his authority when it's imploding.
Do you hear when you say that how that sounds, though? I mean, that is a stunning. I mean, people are just going, what? What did you say, Mike Adams?
Well, I mean, there are lots of ways. I mean, they could release a dirty bomb radiation in a city. They could They could irradiate the water supply of a major U.S. city. Look, the government, I mean, come on, the New York Times admits the FBI runs most of the false flags in the United States that they then stop at the last minute to claim, hey, we're stopping terrorism. The FBI sets those up.
Well, also,
Right?
and we have warned folks against anywhere there's a drill that's going to take place. We've warned folks in New York in July, the subway system. They said they're going to test some kind of mist or vapor or something along the lines so they can detect it should it be a real event. I'm thinking stay out of the subways in July in New York City.
Right. Well, and remember, DHS. DHS has bought over 2 billion rounds of ammunition and thousands of armored vehicles and thousands of full auto machine guns, assault rifles, real assault rifles. DHS is a domestic agency. What's it doing with all those guns and ammo and armored vehicles? I mean, come on. Where do you think this was all headed?
Well, the question is, are there enough people in government that could head this off at the pass, that could stop it and say, no, we will not go that far. We've played along. We've allowed you to go this far. We thought it'd be okay. You're managing things. You're holding it together, but we're not going to let you go that far. Are there people in government that might be able to stop this?
I think there are people like that in the military. I think the higher levels of the military, yes. I think there are good people in the FBI and good people in the CIA even who are fed up with this. And I think, I mean, look at what Steve Pieczenik said recently on the Alex Jones show. He came on the show and literally on live national radio called for Obama to be taken out by the intelligence agencies of America. I mean, yeah,
and is he still with us today, or is he also in jail? And
he is believed to be a spokesperson for the top levels of the CIA, and possibly getting over into the Pentagon as well. And I think he was sending a message to his colleagues to say it's time to stop this corrupt criminal government, take it over by military force if necessary. I mean, this is not out of the question. This stuff could happen.
Well, it's almost, again, sounds like science fiction movie plot that we're discussing in real life. Is we're seeing Adam Kokesh, the reason we're here doing this bonus segment with Mike Adams on the Robert Scott Bell Show, being held in prison right now, as of now, without bail on trumped-up charges that he hit a federal officer when there's so much video evidence that he did not. What are they saying? And the possibility that he might have got a history of drug. What the? I mean, you were talking about an Orwellian charge. My goodness.
Yeah, but you know what? They're also playing right into Adam Kokesh's hands, because Kokesh, every day that he spends in jail makes him more of a martyr, more of a heroic activist figure. I mean, he is becoming super famous across the board now because of this arrest and this charge, and the people won't put up with him being thrown in prison as a political prisoner. They just won't put up with it.
Yeah,
I mean, people will actually probably literally assault the prison with firearms to get him out.
Well, you know, I've only met Adam once, but he seemed to be a nice guy. I mean, he's a military guy. He's probably strong and can break somebody in two, but he seems to be focusing on peaceful, nonviolent mechanisms as opposed to looking to start a violent revolution.
Well, I don't know. That's debatable. I mean, the one thing I'm against with what he's done is some of the rhetoric he chose to use, saying he's going to march on Washington. He called it an armed revolution to overthrow the government. Those were his words. So
so there's a dichotomy in his presentation then.
There is, yeah. There's a little bit of that, but he has not so far committed any violence or threatened anyone with a gun or anything like that, and he's committed to making it a peaceful march. So I think all of us in the activist community, we need to defend his right to exercise free speech, and we need to defend his civil liberties, and really raise hell over this issue of him being arrested and falsely charged with a felony assault of a federal officer. This is a big deal, and Adam Kokesh they're making him famous, which is really playing right into his hands.
All right, well, stay plugged in. The news is at naturalnews.com, and we carry it in the audio airwave form at Natural News Radio on the Robert Scott Bell Show 5 days a week, beginning at 3 o'clock each afternoon in the Eastern Time Zone. Downloadable for free, all of the archives. Thanks to Mike Adams.
Yeah, naturalnewsradio.com is where people can hear it.
Absolutely. Everybody take a listen, and you keep reading Natural News and keep checking in with the Health Ranger. You know I will here. Mike, thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
Remember this, no matter how tough it looks out there, the power to heal is still yours.